Welcome back to Wild, Wise and Curious, Embracing Our Journey, where we're excited to continue the conversation around all things peri and beyond. We'll continue to explore all our stories, challenges and importantly the wisdom we learn along the way. As usual, we'd love to chat with women just like you who might like to share your own perimeno or post-menopause stories with us. We can't wait to chat with you. So we came across a quote that we thought that we'd like to share with you today. And then we're just going to see where the conversation takes us. So this is a quote by Jane Fonda that most of you have probably heard of. And if you haven't, if you look her up, you'll see that she's been around for quite a long time. And she's quite a powerhouse in sort of fighting a woman's corner. And one of the the quote that I'm going to read this morning basically says all that, specifically about our midlife and beyond. So Jane Fonda says, we're still living the old paradigm of age as an arch. That's the old metaphor. You're born, you peak at midlife and decline into decrepitude. But a more appropriate metaphor for aging is a staircase, the upward ascension of the human spirit, bringing us into wisdom, wholeness and authenticity. Thank you, Jane Fonda. What do you think about that, Lou?
Okay, really resonates, doesn't it? Because we have
really
this whole image of getting older and how that has changed over the years as well. Because I think when I think about my when I was growing up, there was a moment at which I think you hit a certain age and then you would be wearing twin sets.
Yes.
Wouldn't you?
You would be, yes. And your pals.
Yeah.
Slip-on shoes.
Yeah.
Chunky heel.
And are we in that stage now? Should we be in that stage now?
Well, actually, when I look back on photos of like my nan and my grandma, they were probably, it was when I was born, I think, so you're talking, they probably were early 50s. Yeah. So maybe only a few years older than us.
Yeah. So, I can't imagine us doing that. Although I do like a twin set.
Do you?
Yeah.
What sort of twin set do you like, Lou?
The jumper and the cardigan kind of ensemble.
Yes. Yeah.
I have been known to wear a little jumper and a cardigan on the odd occasion. But I think, and doesn't this go back to our original conversation when we were talking about second spring?
Yes, it does actually.
Because we had a whole conversation, didn't we, about possibly calling this podcast Second Spring Cafe.
Yeah.
And we then talked about this whole idea of what second spring brings to mind.
Yes.
And it is that
I mentioned Golden Girls, didn't I?
You did mention the Golden Girls, and we love the Golden Girls.
Yes, yeah.
But that we have got that image of an old lady.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, I think because the Golden Girls was about a group of women who decided to live together, didn't they, and age together in an apartment in America somewhere.
Yes. Yeah.
And actually, I think they probably were late 50s and 60s. Maybe I think the older lady from it was in her 70s. She was a bit older, wasn't she?
She was one of the mums. She was a mum for one of them, wasn't she? Oh my gosh!
Yes, she was.
So
she was.
Blanche was the kind of sassy one that was still quite
with it and going out and partying and stuff. Yeah.
I can't remember the other ones.
No, I can't.
Really
I guess it's almost like an older person's version of Sex in the City, wasn't it? It was like that group of friends coming together, but taking it one step further and living with one another.
Yeah, but there is that whole image, and then to think of that, and then think about where we are now.
Yeah,
it feels like a long way away.
Yeah, and it still feels a long way away.
Yeah.
But in reality, I bet you they were only 60.
Yeah. Oh, that's no age.
Well, it's not, is it?
No.
It's only 10 years nearly from where we are.
So at what point, and this is interesting really, at what point has that started to change? So, they do this whole thing of, 30 is the new 20 and 40 is the new 30.
I had
all
a pair
that,
of pants bought for me there. 40 is the new 30 or something.
and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But at what point does that change, and what changes that? What shifts in society for us to then start going, actually, no, I'm not going to fit in your little box like that. I still want to wear my whatever.
Yeah. I think because there was a saying, wasn't there? And I don't know, I don't even know if this is something that people still say, but mutton dressed as lamb or something. And it was basically saying, it was a saying about women who dress too young for their age.
Yeah.
But actually, what is too young for your age?
Yeah.
Because I'm sat here and I'm in a pair of joggers and a t-shirt. And when I go out, I'll wear the clothes that I wear. I do see younger people wearing them.
Yeah.
And if I'm going somewhere fancy, I might wear a pair of tights, a sparkly dress, and chuck a band t-shirt on top of it because I can't look too smart. I don't like to look too smart. So approaching 50, the clothes wise, I'm certainly not stepping foot in shops to wear a twin set, unless, like you said, it's a hoodie and a cardigan. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. I don't know when that changes, or if it changes. Is that?
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? I'd really be curious to hear what other people think.
Yeah. What sort of things do you wear?
Yeah.
Have you morphed into your grandma yet?
Yeah, but I think it's taken me a long time to work out what I like to wear.
Yeah.
What kind of I don't think I have really a style, but what that is and what that isn't. And so is that going to change? I don't know. I spend most of my time walking around in yoga pants.
Yeah.
Just because it's comfy.
Yeah. I think that's why I've opted for joggers these days, just because it's comfy.
Do you think a lot of it is though because we're living longer?
Yes. Yeah.
So,
and obviously I'm jogging everywhere.
Yeah.
And you're yogaing everywhere.
Yogaing everywhere.
I know, sorry. Yeah. It just, isn't it? Yeah, yogaing. It's almost like you need a pogo stick to yogaing. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. Brain.
I don't know. So I really am kind of fixated on the word that she used, decrepitude.
Yes.
And how we are that also brings out this whole conversation that I've been seeing a lot recently about women not wearing makeup anymore.
Yes.
So Pamela Anderson, the beautiful woman that is Pamela Anderson, has been slated in the media for not wearing makeup,
like on red carpet events and things like that. And she looks fantastic.
She looks incredible. But why are we talking about the way she looks?
Yeah, well, we are.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. And it's almost like, I don't know. There's so much psychology in that, isn't there?
Yeah, there really is. There is. But you're right, because I've seen lots of there's videos on all the socials of different celebrity females that are just saying, just go and makeup free. But I think that's been going on for a few years, hasn't it?
It has.
So where does that come from then? This need to look a certain way, to have surgery to look a certain way. I think probably in that industry, film industry and stuff like that, I think it's probably a lot to do with getting roles or not getting roles. I don't really know.
There's probably a lot of research in that.
Yeah.
When you get to a certain age, you don't
get so many roles. Yeah.
Which then again links into a lot what we've said about menopausal women in the media and in film
in general. Absolutely. And the lack of its presence.
Yeah.
And actually those sorts of films would really, it's almost like missing a big chunk, because if 50% of us are going to go through this menopause, perimenopause, then those characters, like we chatted about before, and I know I get quite I absorb this a lot, and the whole idea of there not being the representation in films and in television, it is needed. And I actually think that it would get a really good response, because look at all the stories that come out, look at all the learnings that we've all had by the time we get to midlife. The stories there are so crazy and so complex and happen on so many different levels. How can that not be appealing to filmmakers?
Because sex sells.
I know. And I've got to be honest, like sometimes I can be watching something and be really enjoying it, and then I'm like, oh, it's a sex scene, oh, it's a fight scene.
Yes.
And it bores the pants off me.
Me too.
Those things do nothing for me when I'm watching something. It's always about the story, and it's the complexity of the character. And damn me if we haven't got complexity as a midlife woman, especially a midlife woman in perimenopause, or on that day of menopause, or in postmenopause. It's there's so much more we bring to the story. And like you said, we're living longer. We are living longer. So at some point, I think that has got to reflect in these stories.
Yeah.
I mean, Jane Fonda, I don't want to do her a disservice, but I think Jane Fonda's mid-80s.
I think she possibly is.
Yeah.
I have no idea. But crikey, she's been a pioneer for women, hasn't she, over the years?
Yeah.
So she did a workout thing, didn't she, in the
she
70s?
She did, yes, she did.
And she looks incredible. But there again,
looks,
I've said she looks incredible. I know nothing else about her.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What films was she in?
I don't know.
Right, I am having a look. Let's have a look. So, okay. So because she was actually in something that I watched most of it through, and I'm gonna have a perimenopause moment and go, what was that called? And it was about two women that decided to live together because one of their husbands, because their husbands fell in love and moved out.
Okay.
Which left the two women, oh my goodness, what was it called? It was a series.
That's on a postcard, everyone.
That's on a postcard, absolutely. Absolutely. No, definitely. And basically it was about two women moving in together, even though they didn't really get on and see eye to eye, but actually how them spending time together, they became really close friends and allies, and had a lot more in common, I guess, even though there were two totally different characters. One was a very kind of chilled, laid back, hippie kind of woman. And I think it was Jane Fonda's character was more of a sort of prim, proper, pristine, immaculate kind of lady. But it was interesting. They were, probably postmenopausal at that stage. But she's done loads. Barbarella.
Oh, okay.
She was Barbarella. Jane Fonda was Barbarella. That was a cult film from the 60s, wasn't it? But anyway, while we talk about Jane Fonda, the quote.
Yeah, because obviously she's saying a lot about women in our society, isn't she?
Yes.
She's making a commentary on how we read it again.
So the quote says, "We're still living the old paradigm of age as an arch. That's the old metaphor. You're born, you peak at midlife and decline into decrepitude. A more appropriate metaphor for aging is a staircase, the upward ascension of the human spirit, bringing us into wisdom, wholeness and authenticity." And I don't know about you, Lou, but I do feel that the older I get, the more I understand things that maybe I only either pretended to understand or I understood on a surface level before. And
like what?
Well, different things like my own worth, for one.
Mm.
Instead of kind of thinking that I'm not credible, or what I've got to say might not be valid, and keeping my mouth shut in certain situations, whether that's meetings or whether that's just, you know, with friends, or I've got to a place now where I feel that actually my points are just as valid as anyone else's. It doesn't matter who's talking. We're all human beings, and actually we're all really valid. So where, for example, you might be in a meeting with somebody, and they're spitting the facts at you about the meeting and things. If I've got something then to add to that conversation, which before I might think, oh, actually, well, no, they're higher educated than me, or they've been working here longer, or they're a doctor, or they're a such and such, I'll actually add my voice, and I'll add the things that I want to say, and try not to say them like I'm nervous. Do you know what I mean? Just try and sort of say them as though it's a valued part of the conversation.
At what point do you feel that started to change then?
I'd say that's definitely been while I've been in perimenopause.
Okay.
Although I would say that, and I don't know if you have this as well, but with different circles of people, I can be different levels of myself.
Yeah, and I think that's
true for everyone. Yes.
In general, right?
Yeah. But I would say that, and whether this is that moment that people refer to as when, as women, we get to a point where we go, actually, I'm just going to say and do and be whoever I want to be and say and do. Whether it's to do with that, but it's definitely been more so in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I get that. I do, because I feel exactly the same. But I have had to really work on that, because whenever I say something, I feel like it's about to burst out of me if I don't say it.
Yeah.
You know that feeling when you're in possibly in a work meeting, and you're thinking, oh, I really need to say this thing, but I don't want to bring attention to myself, so I'm not going to say the thing.
Yeah.
And then you're sitting there and you're going red because you want to say the thing, and then so you say the thing and you go I go red anyway, and then I'm hot, and then I'll probably stumble over my words slightly, and that I feel uncomfortable, and I don't like the feeling, but I'm starting to make myself do that.
Yeah. How do you find it? How do you feel afterwards?
It needed to happen.
Yeah.
It's almost like the words were going to explode out of me.
Yeah.
And someone said this to me once, or I heard it somewhere, that sometimes that feeling is because you need to say what you need to say, and that is because you're feeling quite passionate about something, that you feel like you need to say the thing, which is why you feel so uncomfortable in that moment. So it needs to come out of you. Yes. So you need to allow it.
Yeah. So you're like a vessel for a message that's got to come out.
Yeah. And whether you're going to take some learning from that, or whatever.
Or whether someone else in the situation will.
Yeah. But I've always found that really difficult. I always found it really difficult to talking in groups of people. And it's gotten a little bit easier. And I think I've always struggled as well talking in groups of people, much like you were just saying, that know their facts, and I have no memory capacity for facts and names and all that kind of stuff. But I can tell you things on a ground level.
Yeah.
But
I can read it to you from something I've written.
Yeah, absolutely.
My brain hasn't got capacity. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In the moment, I will say, someone said this thing that's, and I know I don't sound incredibly academic or cultured or know what I'm talking about. But anyway, that's a work in progress, right?
Yes.
So I kind of make myself do it, and it has gotten easier, and I've realised I do talk quite slow, but while I'm processing things, and lots of other people talk quite fast when they're telling me things, and it takes me a while to pick that up. And but I've just learned to accept that about myself.
And like, I know we were talking earlier that I said to you, I actually, when having listened back to the podcasts, previous episodes, I actually really like the way you speak, as in it's almost slow. It makes me feel like I need to slow down, because I think sometimes I feel like a roadrunner, and I'm like a bit excited and want to get everything out really, really quickly. And then when you talk, and certainly on the podcast, I feel like what you have to say almost sticks in my head more, because you've said it to me. It sounds like you're saying it in a real measured way. And I actually want to, I'm talking slower now, and that's because I'm thinking about the way you deliver, the way you deliver what you want to say.
It's funny, isn't it? Because we look at other people and think of the things that we'd like to do the same as them, because I would love to be able to articulate the way that you do. This is quickly turning into a mutual appreciation society.
I love you. Hey, what can you give to your girls if you can't have a bit of mutual appreciation? And if we can't comment on the lip gloss or the eyelash extensions that we might have done in our 20s, let's be authentic about it.
But like with the quote, it's being authentic, and I think that's part of it. It feels like it needs to come out because it's authentic.
Yes.
And then there's an element of being more, when you're becoming more yourself. When I'm becoming more myself, I am being more, I'm tapping in more to my own wisdom.
Yes.
And to what I'm feeling, and I'm able to voice that in a kind and considered way.
Yeah.
So, and a compassionate way to others if I need to, possibly measured. Yeah. So that's probably why I do take a little bit longer to try and think about my words, because I am trying to be a bit more measured about how things land with people.
Yes.
But that is probably a skill that I'm learning, rather than to sound really erratic and just say all the things and then not actually get to my point. I think if I'm being a bit more measured with what I'm saying, then that slows me down. Yeah. But then that's okay. Yeah. I've learned that that's okay.
It really is okay. Well, I think, was it last week when I, or a couple of episodes ago, when I was talking about, that might have even been about the lack of representation on TV. Yes. And I took a really long way round to basically say there's not enough, and a few other bits. But it was almost like the act of taking a while to get that conversation out made my understanding deeper, and made the message that I kind of wanted to get out a little bit more clear, even though it took a little bit longer to get there. I don't know, is that...
Yeah, because you're processing the thought as you're saying it, aren't you? Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why being with other people is so key. Yeah. And to have really great conversations is really helpful to us being able to grow as people, and be able to vocalize what we're feeling, what we're thinking, and help us to inform ourselves better, and be able to give us better understanding of everything and ourselves. Yes. There's a real gift in spending time with other people, on a deeper level, and having really good conversations about a variety of things. And I think that has become really important to me as I'm getting older. Almost like trying to work out what is my purpose, why am I here, what's the meaning of life, all that kind of stuff.
All these big heavy questions.
None of that surface level stuff, because we have to do the surface level stuff. We have to do the transactional stuff on a daily basis.
Of course we do, because we're at work and we need to get things done.
Absolutely. We need absolutely
100%, undoubtedly. I don't know if we'll get away with ever, like, not saying absolutely. I've kind of become accustomed to saying it.
That's because we believe very heavily in what we're saying.
We absolutely do. But so like the transactional stuff, we all it needs doing because we've got jobs that need doing at work. We need to be able to say to the kids, have you got your water bottle, have you got this, have you got that, what are you having for dinner, are you going to be home at 5 or whatever. And at work very much so, because different things need doing. But it's the deeper conversations, and you and I both go to Circle, don't we, and sit with other women. I think that's been a real gift.
Yes, I think once I started doing that, I realised how important it was for me to find my own voice, apart from anything else, to work out what I thought about things, and also to help me process emotions, feelings, thoughts that I hadn't possibly given vocabulary to. And then that's helped me reflect quite a lot on where I am in this part of my life. And with that, I think that I've been able to recognise when things need changing. Because I can feel it now. Things feel differently now. I don't know where I'm going with this. No,
but do you, just for anyone listening, would you just sort of like explain what a circle is, just so that they know what we're talking about? And we're not just sitting drawing circles.
Although
that could be nice.
Sitting in circle is it's basically, I mean, the one we go to is a group of women where we just sit and, I mean, ours is a menopause support circle, so it's specifically for people going through this transition, and it is a place to be able to share, to be able to be heard, and again to be given time to process what's going on, because we don't often give ourselves that time, right?
No, we don't.
And to be able to share that time with other people going through the same process, I think it works in all sorts of areas of life. There are lots of different kinds of healing circles that you can go to. So you can generally find a healing circle of some sort
anywhere. They'll even do them online, don't they? Online, so if you can't get out, if you've say got kids asleep or something, there are some to join. But it's really it's opened my sort of eyes and probably made my voice maybe a little bit louder. I don't know. I think listening to other people's stories and then talking about your own stories and realizing that we are all connected, we're all going through something similar, even though our experiences are going to be totally different to somebody else's. But one of the things that I took away from Circle is one, knowing that you're kind of not on your own going through this transient period, and two, like people giving tips and hints of different things they've tried for their very own experience that you never know, maybe that they may be of use for you. But it's also that the whole thing of like our ancestors, and back in the day before we had internet, let's go even further, before we had TV, even further, before radio, when we would just catch up with our friends over a cup of tea or sit round a fire. I don't know, what were women doing 1,000 years ago?
Well, washing at the streams.
Yes, and talking.
Yeah. And singing. Yeah. Sharing stories. Absolutely.
And we don't, well, one, for a start, we don't have to go and wash the clothes at the stream. So that singing and that talking over that job was replaced 1,000 years later with the washing machine doing the work for us. And instead of us saying, okay, let's go and have a cup of tea with a friend, maybe we decided to hoover the house, or go and, I don't know, wash the pots, whatever, or obviously you're working and everything else. So what do you think? Because I know how I feel about this. Do you feel like we as women are probably not connecting as much as we did because of everything else that we have to do, because of all the distractions like the million, gazillion, bazillion TV channels and work and I don't know. I don't know. What do you think?
I think there's a whole host of contributory factors.
Okay.
I think one of them would be things like during industrialisation, we moved away more from the families. There was a time where most families lived on the same street, next to houses next to each other.
Right.
Everybody grew up together.
Yeah.
And with industrialisation, everybody started to move apart. So people were all dotted all over the place. So we became a little bit more insular.
Yeah.
I also thought of something else that I've completely lost my train of thought on.
That's okay. The choo-choo will come back into the station anyway. Was that going on from industrialisation?
No. There was another contributory factor. So remind me what your question was.
So it was, do you think there's like so many contributory factors for women to move away from sort of sitting and chatting with each other?
So it's prioritising.
Prioritising, yeah.
Yeah, because...
Not prioritising self.
Yeah, not prioritising our relationships with others.
Yeah.
And I think understanding that the value in prioritising relationships with others is also valuing your relationship with yourself.
Yeah, no, I think that's a learning I'm really coming back to.
Because I think... So what you were just saying about in circle and learning about what other people are doing to help themselves, we offer compassion.
Yes.
Right? And I think in offering others compassion, it then becomes a lot easier to offer yourself compassion.
Okay, I like that.
I feel like that's really quite intertwined. Well, that has been my experience.
Yeah.
That might not have been everybody's experience, but it's certainly been mine.
Yeah.
When I was able to offer compassion to other people for their experience, I felt that I was not that dissimilar.
Okay.
So I was able to offer myself the same compassion, which was actually really quite transformative for me as I was growing, as I am growing, and continue to do so.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, I really like that. That's really, I don't know. I guess it's like, you know, the skill of learning these different emotions, these different skill sets that we have, and actually, I guess meeting and sitting and learning and listening, all of those lessons. If we're not doing it, how can we flex those muscles?
Yeah, absolutely.
So even if, go on, what?
I know, I said absolutely again.
We're really trying hard not to say absolutely. We've even got a list up on the wall of about 20 different things to say instead. Like, indisputably, exactly, sure thing. But we're still slipping into absolutely. 100%. Okay, so because I remember, and I think it was probably like my mum's era, and I think her like girly get together would be, there was a few of them that worked in the same, the childminding, and they were childminders. So on the walk, they'd walk to school and they'd walk back, and then maybe have a cuppa together, and talk. And they would talk and they would chew the fat. I mean, and sometimes that was 3 hours, and then they'd only part to, for lunch.
But we don't have time for that now.
No. Really? I mean, and I don't know how they would talk, but at the same time, they'd be playing with the kids, drawing with the kids, painting. But they were, they would perhaps be like they're there and talking, and like spending time together. And it's like having a lengthy conversations, not just a quick, not an hour, and
an hour is just a quick catch up.
An hour is really just a quick catch up.
Yeah.
I mean, we started talking about, I think I came around about 5 hours ago, and we've chatted about everything else to catch up with, like life. And then we said, right, okay, let's record an episode. But we needed that 5 hours to like get our heads around what we've both been doing for the last 2 weeks.
You can just sit in a room and talk for hours anyway.
I know. And then we said, right, let's get on with the episode. But it's true. It's like I walk away from a conversation with you and I feel like I've learned something, I've gained something, I've felt seen and heard, I feel valid, I feel like what I have to say is not just, I don't know, it's not just what I think. I always thought, oh, you know, maybe people don't need, I don't know as much as that person, I don't know as much as that person, maybe they don't need to hear me, but maybe they do.
But do you think that comes with curiosity though?
Yeah, curiosity. Yeah.
Because if you're curious about other people, I'm curious.
Yes, I'm curious. I
want to know how people have got to their journey and where they've got to this place. And I love meeting people and talking to people. And I know probably not everybody's the same. I get that.
No.
But I think that's where conversations become quite important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am learning about my place in the world, and how can I do that if I can't learn about other people and where they feel that they are in the world?
Yeah, that's a really valid point.
Thanks, Michelle.
That's all right. Give credit where it's due. But it's true. It's like when we were talking earlier, and we'd be talking about a conversation and then that's happened recently, something that's happened recently. And then just to give more background information, we slip into 30 years ago as to why we might feel that way or how we know a certain person or how we got to even be talking about what we're talking about right now. And our conversation can be in the here, then it can skip back to last week, then it can come back here, then it can go back to 40 years ago, then it can come back to 10 years ago. And all that time, I feel like I'm like a bit like a hunter-gatherer. So I'm gathering and piecing together, because obviously, you know, like we said on an earlier episode, although we've known each other for 40 odd years, whatever, through schooling, it's only really been the last year or so where we've kind of realised that, wow, our conversations, we are on a very similar level and the same sorts of things excite us and interest us. And so when we have these conversations and jump all over the place, it's kind of, for me, the hunter-gatherer is like building a bigger picture of like you and, you know, what you're doing. And I guess that feeds into what you've just said about how do you know your place in the world if you don't know other people's place in the world, or that sort of thing. So do you think that this time in life, being perimenopausal, do you think that activates any like superpower? Why do you think it is that we kind of all of a sudden go, enough, I want to do more for me, I want to have conversations with other women?
Well, funnily enough, I saw a video of a comedian, a female comedian, talking about perimenopause and saying about how, and I'm going to have to find her name so we can credit her because her name escapes me. But she talks about how the estrogen levels fall, and how we get to a stage where we're not putting up with any crap anymore because the estrogen is our caring hormone. Where we don't really care so much about caring. I don't think that's necessarily true, but obviously, so for you and I, our children are a bit older now, so not necessarily got to spend the time doing the stuff that we used to have to do. So we've got a little bit more time.
So what you're kind of like saying then, and like tweak it if I'm getting it wrong, but by learning about other people, their journeys and their stories, that kind of, I don't know, sets you in the right direction for kind of knowing your place, your spot.
I mean, I've got more time to think about this stuff now. I don't know. Is it because I've got more headspace? Is it because I've finally I've done a lot of work on what I want to do in my life, the person I want to be, the person I want to show up as in my relationships, the person I want to show up as in the world. I feel probably more in tune with that now.
Okay.
So there are times where I have gone, oh, I wish I hadn't done that, and then I do things differently.
Because that's a learning.
Yeah. And then so the more that I do stuff like that, I become more authentically me, which feels like I'm more balanced. That balances me more.
Yeah.
Because the person that I am on the inside and the person that I am on the outside are more, Carl Rogers would say, congruent.
Okay, that's a big word.
But yeah, so the you know, and then that comes out as being authentic, and then it feels like that attracts similar people then.
Yes, yeah.
And then I'm having more of those lovely deep conversations, which are nourishing.
Yes, they are.
So I want to do more of that.
Yeah.
So I spend more time with those people.
Yeah.
Which is then helping me with my personal growth.
Yeah.
Which is helping me feel more me.
So actually, by doing things that afterwards you think, oh, why did I do that? Or why did I say that? They're actually, instead of going over and over, why did I do that? Or why did I say that? They're actually like really valuable lessons.
They are, because it's really hard though when you're going through them.
Especially in perimenopause, and when you do the overthinking thing at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Oh my God, why did I say no, I'm not going to go to that party? Or why did I say no, I can't like walk the dog that day?
Or do that piece of work.
or do that piece of work.
How I reacted to that person. Perhaps I shouldn't have reacted that way, but I was having a really rubbish day.
Yeah.
You know, so then, okay, so what are you going to do? Well, how are you going to do better? How are you going to show up differently?
Yeah.
That does not help at 3 o'clock in the morning.
No.
In fact, did want to, as a bit of a digression, talk about the difference between last night waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And you remember we talked last time about me having a really bad sleepless night, and I had such a bad day. So this morning, the same thing happened again. I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, could not go back to sleep, brain racing, all the techniques were not working. I have no idea what time I went back to sleep. I even slept through the alarm, so I literally have no idea. And it's in that moment, isn't it, of I cannot get back to sleep. Oh my gosh, look at the clock, it's 3 o'clock.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, I really need to get back to sleep. But the difference today was that I have a non-working day today.
Okay.
So I had extra time. So this morning, my husband was able to take the kids to school.
Yeah. I
was able to be a bit slower. I took longer on the dog walk. And it just felt a lot easier. And even though I can't necessarily access my words, I don't feel like the firelight has gone out like it did the other week.
Yeah.
So I just think that's two massively different experiences following a really bad night's sleep.
Yeah.
I know I've digressed. I'm really sorry.
No. But it's valid, because we're talking about the waking up and like mulling things over because you feel like you've said or done something wrong, and you're really right to bring it up, because it's the 3 o'clock wake up that makes it more amplifies it. That's exactly the word. It amplifies it. But actually, I think what you were saying as well before then about like learning from those things, that doesn't help the 3 o'clock thing.
Does not help the 3 o'clock thing.
But then when you're back into sort of a bit more of a relaxed headspace, where you're like, oh, okay, it's not 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm not going to like go, oh my God, why did I drop that orange in Sainsbury's and it rolled over someone's foot? It could have given them a blister. You know, you know how it goes.
Blooming big orange.
Oh, big orange. Heavy orange. I didn't say it was a fruit orange. It was a big orange brick.
No.
Big carton of orange. But you know, these weird thoughts that we have, like, oh my God, why did I like get cross because that person cut me up in the traffic? Well, we're allowed to get cross because somebody cut us up, you know. But why then compassion? But we can be sometimes quite blamey of ourselves. Like, I know if someone's cut me up and I've, like, you know, carried on driving thinking what an idiot, or I might have been a bit more rude than that. And then, you know, in the past I have kind of gone home, and if I've woken up at 3 a.m, I've like gone, oh God, that doesn't mean I'm a very compassionate human being. I've just gone, oh, that person was an absolute idiot. They shouldn't have cut me up. But actually, you know, I should have looked at it in a different way. I should have been like, okay, maybe they're in a rush. Maybe they needed to get to the hospital to see somebody, or maybe they needed to do this or they needed to do that. But then I'm like, actually, I'm human, and that person was an idiot, and they did cut me up and could have caused an accident. So I don't know. I think that the learning there is the conversation you have with yourself afterwards.
Yes.
Okay, were they really an idiot? Did they really cut me up that bad? This is a really boring example, but it's something that happens to us all the time. But I don't know, the compassion element probably did leave the building at that point, and now I've totally lost where I was going with that one.
No, and I think, well, what you're saying is really valid, and I think it really ties in with, you know, the fact that it actually really ties in very well with what I was saying earlier, in the fact that by talking with others, by sharing our story, by connecting with others, learning, processing, learning about our own inner dialogue. Like for me, I had an experience this week where I did beat myself up about something that had happened at work. I had a conversation with myself and I was able to put it to rest, whereas ordinarily I would have ruminated over that, and I would have beat myself up over that. So I do think that there's a lot of value in having conversations outside of my own head. To help me process things, help me make sense of things, help me make sense of the world, and prioritize the things that I really do need to worry about and the things I don't necessarily need to worry about.
Yeah, that makes real sense. So I wonder what Jane Fonda would think of that.
Well, but that comes back into what she was saying about the authenticity, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
You know, and how you find that. How do you find what your own authenticity is?
Well, a lot of it.
Live authentically.
I think the talking to yourself is it's probably a really good tool, you know.
Yeah, talking to yourself is a really good tool. But it is. How you're doing it.
That you know, like having the thoughts to yourself of, okay, why did I react like that? Was it because of my lack of sleep? Was it because I felt a certain way in that conversation? Was it because of I don't know, different things that had led up to the conversation, and nothing to actually do with the conversation?
Yes.
And I think when you kind of walk away from having had those conversations where you think, oh, I wish I'd not said that. And actually, if you've kind of then like pulled that apart and looked at it, what could I have done better? What could I have said better? I think you do learn a lot.
Yes.
And that must reinforce to yourself the person that you want to be. And also it makes it easy to go, actually, I went wrong by saying this. Oh, how do I rectify that? Do you know what? I'll just drop a text saying, I'm really sorry, I had a really shitty night's sleep last night.
Absolutely. Open it.
Open it. Don't leave it. And then you can move past it. And then it's forgotten about. And then the next week it's something else. And you're back again going, oh, God, why did I do that? Why did I say that? But, you know, it's learning. I really like that. The thought of any kind of thing that you do that you're kind of like authenticity radar or whatever goes off and goes, I'm not quite sure that I should have handled it like that. I like that every one of those is actually, it's a guide. It's kind of like a guide trying to show you, if it feels off, that's because it is off for you. Whereas if you walk away from a conversation feeling warm and cozy and like, oh my God, that was great, I said this and said that, and actually then that is who you really are. Am I going way too deep?
No, I love it. I love the depth of the conversation. No, absolutely, and I completely agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that.
So what we're basically saying is conversations are the key, even if we go wrong.
Yeah. Connection.
Yeah.
Conversation.
Yeah. Compassion.
And being with others.
Yeah.
All the C's.
Yeah, all the C's.
Yeah. I think that's really important for us to be able to share with others.
Yeah.
And learn from others in order to find out who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Oops. Said absolutely again. 100%, for sure, without a doubt. Undoubtedly, absolutely. Oh, I've done it again. But yeah, it's probably a good time to wrap this one up. Otherwise, you'll be hearing the 20 different ways of saying absolutely.
Perhaps we should rename the podcast Absolutely.
Absolutely, wild, wise, and curious. Anyway, as usual, if there's anything or if there's anything on the show that you want to comment on, or if there's any conversations or comments that might be interesting for Lou and I to talk about in future episodes or something, that might be something nice. And equally, as you know, we'd always love to talk to you, so get in touch if you fancy talking on the show,
joining us
in our and have a collaborative conversation, cuppa and compassion. Well, have a good week. It's really good to talk.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Wild, Wise and Curious. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, feel free to email us at info@wildwiseandcurious.com or reach out on our socials at wild_wise_and_curious. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Stay curious and we'll see you next time.